Yes, it is. Let's see. Normally I preload everything into one document, and I got a little off track yesterday. You're gonna hear about it. Because every time anything happens, you have to turn it into a sermon story. So yeah. Well, here's our Sunday lesson. Hi. Is the universe friendly or not? Right? And right now I'm going through The Eye of the Storm by Gary Simmons, and I go through this. I've gone through this book enough that I forgot how many times I read it. Not as many times as Harry Potter. But a lot. But basically, this is the question that Einstein posed to us. Do we believe we live in a friendly universe? And he said, this is the most important question facing humanity. Is the universe a friendly place? And this is the first and basic question all people must answer for themselves. Now, when I know for myself when I'm on a roll, when like things are working out really good and I'm in the flow, I'm like, oh yeah, the universe has my back. Like everything's just coming together so perfectly. But what about the terrible things that we experience, or maybe the terrible things we see happening in our world? We've got war and genocide and poverty and sickness, and we can look around our world and see evidence for all this. So we're asking, gosh, do we live in a friendly universe? Like, how do we answer that when we're looking at evidence of otherwise? It can actually seem sometimes like the universe is working against us. You'll get to hear about that too. It was my day yesterday. If someone were to threaten you, or intimidate you, or scare you, or judge you, there are all kinds of feelings that you might have that go along with that. But probably not. One of the feelings is probably not, well, the universe has my back. But I'm going to invite you to consider this. Is the person who threatens you, judges you, intimidates you, scares you, are they really against you? Like, are they really against you? The poet Robert Browning, he paraphrased a really spiritual quote from George Washington, our first president, which is that within each person there is a divine spark. And we can waste it, and we can desecrate it, but it never goes away. It never goes away. So no matter somebody's behavior, as we're witnessing or as we're perceiving, no matter somebody's behavior, the divine spark never leaves them. In the book, The Course in Miracles, it talks about how only people who are hurting within themselves can hurt another person. Someone who is in their wholeness and worth, it wouldn't occur to them that they need to hurt another person to get what they need in life. That would just never occur to them. Only somebody who's hurting would have that experience. In Luke chapter 6, verse 45, it talks about how when there is a good treasure in the heart, that leads to the demonstration of good in our life. And if there is bad treasure in the heart, that leads to the demonstration of badness in our life. What is inside of us is what we're putting out to the world. So, like, this is really how I like to look at it. If you squeeze an orange, what comes out of the orange? The orange, the juice, the pulp, and seeds, if you're getting an old-fashioned, non-modified orange, right? So what happens to us when we are metaphorically squeezed, when the pressure is on, when we're overwhelmed, when we're feeling triggered? Like, what comes out of us? What is it that comes out of us at that point? What's inside of us depends on whether or not we have a sense of wholeness and well-being, and if we believe we live in a friendly universe or not. So that's what's going to be squeezed out. So that the person who judges us or threatens us or scares us or intimidates us, are they really against us? Or is it them? Is it something inside of them that they would just lash out to anybody? So what is behind our ability to believe that we live in a friendly universe? Basically, it's based on our sense of wholeness. And if we are struggling to experience wholeness in our life, whenever we're struggling to experience wholeness, then somewhere we're believing that there is an opposing force. So an opposing force is something that holds our well-being hostage. In the New Testament, teacher Yeshua called this the enemy. That was the enemy. It's not like a person out there, right? It's something holding our well-being hostage, so we cannot experience the well-being. Now, there are a lot of things in our lives that we could say hold our well-being hostage. If we are sick, or we have some kind of physical illness, or if things just are achy and swollen, and it's like, oh man, if my knees weren't bugging me so much, I could be running. Like I could be a marathon runner, right? But it's something that it keeps us from doing something, and we can blame that. Okay, what if we're experiencing poverty, right? Somebody in poverty might say, if they are not in their wholeness, they might say, well, if only I had the money, then I could make this work. If only I had more money, then I could buy these things and I could invest, and then my life would be so good. Or if we lose a loved one, right? If we lose a loved one, maybe we look at that person or the loss of that person in our life and we think, that wasn't fair. That's not fair, right? How they left or what happened to them, that is not fair. Or if we are betrayed by a loved one, it's like they made a promise, they made a vow, they weren't supposed to do that. If someone is a victim of a crime, my aunt's house got robbed, and burgled. That's a fun word to say. My aunt's house got burgled. and I was like maybe 12 years old, but she never really got over that. And so everything she did was like, I want to make sure that like nobody can break in. Like she hid everything. Like her jewelry, because they took her whole jewelry box. So she hid her jewelry like underneath the litter box, right? Places where nobody would look. And then my grandma moved in with her, and she was like, okay, now I have a person here during the day who can defend our house. So, and get 10 cats too, so that helps too. But she couldn't get past that. Like she always worried that it would happen again. Now, without this sense of well-being within us, all those circumstances, those things that happen, those are out of our control most of the time, right? I mean, my aunt, she locked up her house and she locked her windows and she got robbed anyway, all right? Sometimes, I mean, we cannot control everything that's outside of us, okay? We think we can sometimes, but we're on a planet spinning like I don't even know how fast, faster than a jet. Hurtling through space, right? But we're here. But so if we're looking out into our environment and we're trying to control that, and we're blaming circumstances, the poverty or the illness or the loss, a piece of us then really has gone into that, and we're looking into that for that lost piece. So it's always going to hold power over us. Right? We're always going to be looking for our missing piece in that circumstance. So today I want to talk about a new paradigm for wholeness that I got from the Eye of the Storm. And he talks about, like in this paradigm for wholeness, this is where we're able to spot an opposing force as soon as it presents itself, and we can do something about it. We don't have to feel like we're at its mercy, that we'll actually be able to do something about it. So Gary Simmons defines wholeness as the energy of communion, purpose, and non-resistance. He actually says a whole lot, but it would take us all day. So I'm going to talk about communion, purpose, and non-resistance. That we have, communion is our third principle in the unity principles, and it's about how we align with the divine within us. Are we using prayer? Are we affirmations, denials, meditation? And I like the affirmations and denials a lot when I'm worked up about something. When I'm feeling okay, like meditation, prayer, that's all good, of course. But if I'm really worked up about something, I like denials and affirmations because it's the casting the burdens process, right? When Christ said, oh, your yoke is so heavy, take mine because my burden is light. And so what we're doing is we're acknowledging, I have this thing and it's bothering me, and we hand it over. So the process of casting our burdens, what we're doing is we're handing something over to God, and then we can remember that this thing that I'm holding, that I'm handing over to God, it may be affecting my life, but it cannot hold power over how I believe and my faith in God working through me. It cannot change my faith in the power that creates worlds, also working through me too, and into every part of my life. This power that works through me, that this condition cannot take away my faith. And it's the power that guides me, directs me, makes me solution-oriented, gives me bright ideas. And this thing that I'm handing over, it can't take away that. Right? It may be able to do other things in my life, but it cannot take away that. So that's communion. Our purpose. We talk a lot about purpose, and I always loved, like when I got into massage therapy, like over 20 years ago, it's a whole bunch of like new agey kind of people, and it was really such a fun group, and it's like, oh, my purpose and my life purpose and my calling, and I loved all of that. I loved talking about it, but some of our callings change throughout our lives. Like when I was 20, my calling, I knew was to be a rock star. But then I discovered massage therapy, and I was like, no, my calling is to be a healer. And then I had kids. My calling is to be a mama. And so our calling might change, but we have a purpose that's like the overarching purpose of everything that we ever do in our life. And it's not about what we do. It's about how we do what we do. And that is to be the avenue through which God's love flows into our lives. Be the avenue through which God's love flows out into this world and out into all of our relationships and even into any conflicts that we are experiencing. Be the avenue through which God's love flows into our experience. And what happens is that when we are living in that purpose, we don't focus on the problem. We don't dive deep into the problem. We're focused on calling forth the good. We're focusing on that power that creates worlds. So we can receive the inspiration and receive the ideas and create as our Creator creates, with intention and activity. So that is our purpose. Then we have non-resistance. This is a really good one, because there's just like, people have a lot to say about non-resistance. Because it sounds like, don't resist it, just give up, right? And even like Christ said, resist not evil. Like we've talked about that. When I know when I first read it, I was like, so I should just be evil? Like just give in? But that's not resistance. Resistance is if you push against a closed door and it won't budge, right? In fact, if you push against something hard enough, it can eventually feel like it's pushing back at you. Okay, resistance is when we're pushing into something that's not going to give. So resistance is, we're looking at something, it's not going to give, but we're wanting it to change so that we can be happy. We're wanting it to change, and until it changes, we can't be happy, and we'll just blame it. So I'm going to just push against this door, and it's the stupid door for not opening, right? One time I got home, this wasn't very long ago, and our door wouldn't open, right? And everybody got home before me, and I'm trying to get the door open, and it's locked. I don't have a key. I never use a key to go in through our garage door. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why are they doing this to me? And I'm like, pushing on, and I keep pushing on the door. Like I'm rattling it. Adam's on the other side, and he's like, Mom, the door's stuck. Go around. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess the door wasn't out to get me. It was just having a problem. Yeah, Carolyn Mace says that somewhere there's someone going to a seminar to get over you. And sometimes our opposing forces aren't out there. Well, they never are really, right? We just think they're out there. So resistance is we're looking at something and we're blaming it for why we can't move forward. That will keep us from seeing the activity of God working in our life. When I was rattling that door, I don't know how many times my son had to yell at me, Mom, the door's stuck. Because I'm just like, open the door! Open the door! You locked me out! Right? So I couldn't hear. And that's what happens to us if we're in resistance. Non-resistance really is the practice of observing our life. Observing. And then not blaming it, just observing it. The door's stuck. Like, really, how much trouble is it for me to just call somebody in my own house? Everybody was home, right? We observe what is going on, and we don't blame it. We observe it. Can I change it? Well, I couldn't change the door. Can I rise above it? Eventually, I did. Like, I walked around. So that's what we're doing in non-resistance. We observe it and decide, can I change it, or do I need to rise above it? So what about, of course, this is a big question, a big spiritual question. What about all the bad things, though? Come on, let's get back to that. What about all the bad things that happen in this world? The bad things that happen to good people, right? Assassination attempts. Not attempts, actual assassinations. Martin Luther King, President Lincoln, Kennedy, Sandy Hook. What about things like Sandy Hook and the shootings? And again, war, genocide. In the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 45, it says, Our Father in heaven causes the sun to shine upon the good and the bad, and pours down his rain on the just and the unjust. This is life on planet Earth, really. Like there's things are going to happen here that causes pain. We're going to experience heartache. But there's a force within us that can guide us through the pain, because I know, like, some of my experiences, even though they ended up having, I ended up feeling pain around them, I wouldn't have given up for anything the time before that. Right? The experience of love that I had before that. But there's that force that guides us. Part of our experience of being an infinite being in a body right here, again, it's how are we expressing our purpose over and over and over again, even though I'm dealing with this physical illness. I can be the avenue through which God's love flows into my life. Even though I got some money issues, I can still be the avenue through which God's love flows into my life. Even though, and just fill in the blank, I am the avenue through which God's love flows into my life. Into every part of our life. See, that's the thing. It's not the easy parts. Like, we're not really growing in the easy parts. It's already easy to love the people that are easy to love. It's already easy to do that. So we are being the avenue through which God's love flows into our life in the uncomfortable parts, in the hard parts, in the ugly parts. And then the movement of God through all that clears the way. But we have to let that movement of God happen. Ernest Holmes said, he was talking about even roses have their thorns. Not every moment of our lives will be filled with complete happiness, with everything that the heart can desire. Life is often filled with undesirable situations and conditions. It is. Yeah. So it's on us to decide how we're going to handle that, how we're going to move through that. How are we going to be the avenue through which God's love flows into this world? Right? Can we forgive the situation and let go of all hope for a better past? Let go of all hope that somebody will change and not be a jerk? Let go of all hope, right, that maybe somebody will change their mind about us or change what they're doing, or our boss will recognize how wonderful we are, right? Can we be the avenue through which God's love flows into this world so we can focus on the great I am within us, that power that creates worlds? This power put galaxies into its spin. This power create this beautiful planet. And we're not asking for that much. And it's at work through us, right? Are we here? Like, are we willing to be here to represent that force that we came here to represent? And like call that forth into our life, share that in our lives? No master ever gave us the promise of a perfect, easy life. And there are many spiritual teachers and many spiritual masters, and there's just not enough time, to go through all of them. But I know you might have some that you think about, and you think they shared a beautiful message. But I think about, first of all, Moses. I see Moses as like the original guy who really shook things up. He had a cushy life, and he gave up a cushy life, and he freed his people from Egypt, and he taught them to see that they could have a relationship with the one God, with Yahweh, that they didn't have to make sacrifices or idols to get somebody's attention. He taught them, no, you have a relationship. And through these certain actions, and he gave the 10 Commandments. Teacher Yeshua, he took that a little further. Oh, the God outside is not a God outside, it's a God within. And love is the greatest power. That's why I'm saying love your brothers as yourself and love others as I have loved you. Because love is not about human love. Love is just about seeing God in all things. That was his teaching. See God everywhere. See God within yourself and within everybody. When I first learned who Ram Dass was, and he brought the teachings of the East to the West, he talked about consciousness and connection. And I think he was probably pretty famous, and then he had a stroke. And it messed him up for a while. And Taylor's played some of his talks for me. He talks really slow, but he still kept doing what he was doing. Wayne Dyer, I love Wayne Dyer. He talked about how there's a spiritual solution for everything. And then he had a heart attack, and he had heart surgery, and he got cancer. Yet he kept talking about the power of love and following your bliss and having awareness. Because that spiritual solution to everything wasn't about magically making stuff go away. It was about accepting that it was there. Can I change this? Do I have to rise above it? So he brought us a lot. All of them, they shared the good. They called forth their gifts and put them out into the world, in spite of the storms of their own lives. There was a lot of storms in their lives. When I was a little kid and I heard about how hurricanes and tornadoes have an eye within them, a calm center, like the eye of a storm, I thought that was really amazing. I couldn't imagine how you can be the center of all this destruction, but in the center, in the eye of the storm, there's nothing going on, right? It's just beautiful and calm. But we all have that calm center too. It's there and it's available to us, even in the storms of life, right? Because we don't want to get out here in the destruction. We're not going to be able to do anything because we're going to be busy trying to avoid, the wood and surfboards and, cars that have been flipped over and are spinning everywhere. So we go to our calm center, which is always available. Wholeness is not found out there. We go here to find the wholeness. Wholeness is not in anything we're blaming. We go here to find our wholeness. In the eye of the storm, he says that wholeness is our divine nature. It is our divine nature. It's the foundation of our being. And I feel like it's kind of what's holding us here in our bodies so that we can have these next experiences that the soul is always craving. And we have that feeling of curiosity and excitement for new experiences. And we're coming from wholeness when we do that. So here's our call to action this week. And I really like this affirmation because I've already said it like 10 times. Let's say it together. I am the avenue through which God's love flows into this world. So no one is against you, really, even when you have evidence that it's otherwise. It's about them, right? It's about they're not tapped into their own wholeness, okay? So, and it's, you know what? It can actually be pretty easy to be like, oh, I'm in the flow, everything is so good. Dang, why is the universe against me? And so I'm going to just share a short, I hope it's funny. It's funny to me. Yesterday we had an event here, a graduation party, and it was so beautiful. This young lady graduated in 2020, and she didn't get to do the graduation walk. So she just got her master's. She decided, I'm having a big party. So she set up a beautiful party out there. Well, Adam said that, my son said he would come down here and close for them because the party went till 10. And so there's the period between 10 and 11 or 11:30 or so, and I just cannot stay up that late. I get up at 4 o'clock on Sundays. And so Adam was like, yeah, I'll take care of it, Mom. So 7:30, and I'm waiting to get ready for bed because I'm going to climb in bed and I'm going to read. And I was thinking, wow, this day, man, it's a beautiful party. Adam's closing up for me. Everything is so good. I'm about to get into bed and read this book that I'm really loving. And then I get a phone call. And it's Kayla, the girl who's having the party. Deanna, all 3 of your toilets are plugged up. I was like, I'll be right there. And I hung up. Why does the universe hate me? Why is this happening to me? It happened to me. So I called Don and kind of whined to him for a little bit. Dave went down there with me, and I don't know, I felt at the time like if I whined, it would fix everything. I'd just get down here and just plunge at once. But they tried plunging, at the party. So I come down here, Dave takes the toilet off. He was here for the ugliest part of the night. It was bad. But I called the plumber finally, right? I was like, there's a 24-hour plumber? Okay. So I called one, and he's like, okay, I'll be right down. This is 8:30 at night now, right? He'd been sneaking things for an hour. So the plumber comes down here at 8:30. Now, meanwhile, everybody at this graduation party is like, hey, can I use the restroom yet? I was like, no, we're working on it. Okay, no problem. Like, everybody there was really nice. In fact, somebody came in there and was like, hey, you guys want some food? I was like, no. I told you it was ugly. Okay, I told you it was ugly. Nobody wants to eat after that. So, anyway, the plumber shows up. Adam comes and gets Dave and takes him home so he can get showered before I come home so I can shower. And the plumber tells me something about what's going on out there, and it's not what I had been told before. And it seems like it'll be easier to deal with. And everybody was so nice, and things were, Adam shows up and then helps clean. And so I had one gripe, right? It's always happened to me. But then I had all of these other really supportive things happen. And what happened was, at first, I was giving my experience the meaning that I was giving it. But then as I got down here and Dave was working so hard and everybody here was so nice, and actually there were people coming in there trying to help. Like, they were really sweet, and Dave's just like, please go, right? They're all going to tell him what to do, right? But it ended up just being like when I left here at 10:30. Was it 10:30 when I left? I was just like, okay, we're good. It's okay. And the plumber is even like, I'll stay here till the event's over just to make sure, because he did have to sink it twice. But that's how easy it can happen. Like, I had a great day yesterday. I did. And then even it was fine afterwards. I didn't want to be up so late, but everything was fine. So it can be really easy to just flip like that. I experience that all the time, I'll tell you. So is this a friendly universe or not? When we can step into this paradigm of wholeness, communion, right? Align with the divine within us, and our purpose be the avenue through which God's love flows into this world. And then the non-resistance of it. Can I change it? Or do I have to rise above it? We can get into our calm center no matter what out here is being flung at us, right? We have a calm center that's always there for us. We step into this calm center through the communion, through remembering our purpose, and through the act of non-resistance. We step into our calm center. Now, there are always going to be storms of life. There always will be. If we don't have our own storms, for myself, if I don't have a storm and I know somebody who has a storm, sometimes I'm like, well, let me just step into the storm with you, right? So sometimes our storms are other people's storms too. But we're always going to have the storms of our lives. But when we go to our calm center first, we just go right here. Right here is where we become this unstoppable force. Here is where we are calling forth, we're the avenue for the power that creates worlds. And that power gives us the inspiration and the ideas. So we're focusing on solutions. And that's always there for us. And stepping into that calm center, that's how we are creating heaven on earth. So until next time, remember that you are divinely designed to do all of this stuff. You are the hands and the heart of God in this world. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is.
So it is.
So it is.
Amen.
All right, we have a lovely meditation now with Taylor and